This is Radio Taiwan International. Welcome to the news on Radio Taiwan International. I'm Michelle Chang, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. We begin with a look at today's top stories for Friday, April 3rd. Taiwan will be seeking preferential treatment over the U.S.'s 100% tariff on patented drugs. International law scholars are raising concerns over possible U.S. war crimes. And the Taiwan CDC has raised the Nipah virus to a Category 5 infectious disease. But first, today's top story. Taiwan will invoke preferential tariff mechanisms over the United States' announced plans to impose a 100% tariff on imported patented pharmaceutical products, the Cabinet's Taiwan-U.S. Economic and Trade Task Force said Friday, April 3rd. U.S. President Donald Trump imposed tariffs on patented pharmaceuticals and their ingredients under Section 232 of the 1962 Trade Expansion Act to, quote, bolster American national security and public health, according to a White House fact sheet published Thursday. The tariffs also announced Thursday will come into effect in 120 days for large companies and 180 days for smaller companies, the White House said. In response to the announcement, the Taiwan-U.S. Economic and Trade Task Force said Taiwan exported 1.32 billion NT dollars, or nearly $40 million worth of patented drugs to the U.S. in 2024, accounting for 13.5% of the value of Taiwan's drug exports. The U.S. has temporarily exempted generic drugs and their raw materials from the tariff and will reassess the exemption within 1 year, the task force said. Taiwan exported nearly 8.5 billion NT dollars, or $270 million worth of generic drugs to the U.S. in 2024. The overall impact on Taiwan's pharmaceutical industry is considered controllable, the task force said, adding that the government will continue cooperating closely with industry stakeholders. More than 100 U.S. international law experts said in an open letter on Thursday, April 2nd, that American strikes against Iran may amount to war crimes. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump repeated statements this week that the American military may strike Iran's electricity and desalination infrastructure. In a televised address on Wednesday, April 1st, Trump said that if Iran does not accept U.S. terms, the war could escalate with possible strikes on the country's energy and oil infrastructure. Trump previously made contradictory statements on the timeline and objectives of the conflict. The U.S. and Israel launched attacks on Iran on February 28th. Iran retaliated with strikes against Israel and nations in the region with U.S. military presence. Hostilities have so far resulted in thousands of deaths and millions displaced. Dozens of scholars from institutions including Harvard, Yale, Stanford, and the University of California signed an open letter stating U.S. military actions and statements from senior U.S. officials, quote, raise serious concerns about violations of international human rights law and international humanitarian law, including potential war crimes. The letter points out that in mid-March, Trump said the U.S. might attack Iran just for fun. It also noted that the U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said American forces were not constrained by stupid rules of engagement. The letter expressed concerns about attacks on schools, medical facilities, and residential areas, highlighting a strike on a girls' school in Iran on the first day of the conflict. According to media reports, preliminary investigations suggest the U.S. may be responsible. The Iranian Red Crescent estimates 170 people died in the attack. The CDC has raised the Nipah virus to a Category 5 infectious disease, according to a press release on Thursday, April 2nd. CDC spokesperson Zheng Suhui underscored that the Nipah virus outbreak is continuing to affect South and Southeast Asia, with over 750 confirmed cases worldwide and a mortality rate of approximately 40 to 75%. The Nipah virus is a zoonotic infectious disease naturally hosted by the fruit bat, though it can infect intermediate hosts such as pigs before transmitting the virus to humans. Transmission routes are mainly divided into 3 categories: animal-to-human transmission, foodborne transmission, and limited human-to-human transmission. These include direct contact with infected pigs, consumption of food contaminated with fruit bat urine or saliva, or infection through close contact with the blood, bodily fluids, or respiratory secretions of infected individuals. Clinical symptoms are wide-ranging, from asymptomatic infection and acute respiratory symptoms to fatal encephalitis. Zheng stated that, considering there are currently no approved treatments or vaccines for Nipah, the CDC has listed it as a Category 5 notifiable infectious disease, aiming to strengthen the early warning system, raise public awareness of disease prevention, and quickly mobilize relevant resources to respond to potential future outbreaks. However, she added that although cases continue to occur in neighboring regions, the WHO assesses the probability of a Nipah virus pandemic as low, and the public should not panic. A National Taiwan University, or NTU, research team has successfully developed a biodiesel production system the size of a backpack. Led by Mechanical Engineering Associate Professor Zhang Yayo, the team pioneered a spiral coil separation technology that was featured on the cover of top international journal Green Chemistry. Zhang points out that traditional processes are lengthy, water-intensive, and require bulky equipment, but the team overcame these challenges using a Corning microreactor and a world-first spiral coil liquid phase separator. Requiring only a small amount of space, they achieved a biodiesel yield of up to 91.14%, with high-quality diesel and an acid value exceeding national standards. Mechanical engineering doctoral student and team member Yang Ten-Yo stated that this system is like a convenience store coffee machine, allowing for decentralized deployment. He envisions a future where roadside stalls have small systems converting waste cooking oil or vegetable oil into biodiesel for use in diesel generators. Zhang stated that they are currently collaborating with CPC Corporation and hope to move towards commercialization. Energy resilience is a critical issue for Taiwan, where disasters can easily cause large-scale supply disruptions. Miniaturized systems can reduce reliance on large chemical plants, extending energy supply from a fragile centralized network to every corner that needs electricity. As long as cooking oil is readily available, it can be converted into biodiesel for power generation. China's bone ash apartment practice emerged as funeral costs surged and property prices fell.
China's property downturn and rapidly aging population are giving rise to a controversial trend, so-called bone ash apartments. In some cities, families are choosing to store the cremated remains of loved ones in vacant residential units instead of paying for increasingly expensive cemetery plots. The practice has grown under mounting economic pressure and limited burial space, prompting authorities to step in. China began enforcing revised funeral management regulations last month, banning the use of residential properties specifically for storing ashes. According to the Financial Times, the trend reflected a widening gap between falling house prices and rising funeral costs. Data from insurer Sun Life shows funeral expenses in China can reach about 45% of a person's annual income, among the highest in the world. At the same time, property prices have declined sharply in recent years, making some empty apartments a more affordable alternative. Researchers say this shift reflects changing economic realities. UC Irvine anthropology doctoral student Wu Xingyi notes that when housing loses its value as a place to live or invest, people will assign it new functions. According to a central news agency, Taiwan's official state-owned newswire service, the structure of land use rights also play a role. Residential properties typically carry 70-year usage rights in China, compared to cemetery plots that are often limited to 20-year leases. While some residents say the practice affects living conditions, others, especially young renters, are less concerned, particularly if it leads to lower housing costs. Authorities are now moving to curb the trend while promoting lower cost and more sustainable burial alternatives. Joey Chow for RTI News.
The Taipei City Environmental Protection Department announced that regulated plastic garbage bag supplies are expected to remain steady, and prices are not expected to increase. This announcement comes as plastic bag shortages across other areas of Taiwan have led to fears that Taipei's city-regulated garbage bags may also be affected. In a press release on Friday, April 3rd, the department stated that city-regulated garbage bags are procured according to annual budgets and in pre-arranged contracts with manufacturers. Currently, supplies are normal, with inventories of 3 to 6 months, depending on the type of bag. The department said if citizens are unable to buy them, it is likely a temporary restocking gap at the stores rather than a manufacturer shortage. The department has since coordinated with logistics companies and sales outlets to expedite the supply process. They also noted that there are no plans for price increases, clarifying that the prices of bags was set under the garbage collection policy, not as a reflection of production costs. Department officials urged the public not to panic or hoard supplies. They emphasized that city-regulated garbage bags are not time-limited or quantity-limited items and that after checking various retail outlets that there is no shortage to worry about. Thanks for joining me for the news. I'm Michelle Chang. Stay tuned for another 50 minutes of English language features brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.